It's useful to know how to use a set of traditional jumper cables in case your car battery dies. Every car should have this emergency equipment on hand for those just-in-case situations. Even though connecting a set of jumper cables might seem simple, there are always a lot of potential problems. The melting or smoking of jumper cables is one problem you don't want to deal with. We address every potential cause of the jumper cables smoking in this quick video and walk you through the solution. It's the Car Problems YouTube channel. Subscribe and let's get started. Incorrectly connected. Unfortunately, a user error in the connection can prevent the vehicle from being able to be jumped. It is important to check that the clamps are installed correctly and in the correct order before connecting the cables. Every clamp is designed to fit a specific car battery terminal. Black clamps are intended to be connected to a negative post, and red clamps are used with positive posts. Reversing this order could result in an electrical breakdown, which would cause melting and smoking. Although melting cables might not seem like a good thing, this is a built-in safety feature. The cables melt instead of the battery blowing up. Replacing a set of jumper cables is far less complicated than fixing an automobile whose battery exploded. Bad connection. We've already talked about how problems can arise from an improperly aligned connection between the two cars, but we also need to examine the connections made to each car separately. Perfect connections are necessary for batteries to be charged. Many of the same issues may arise if the battery post is corroded because the connection will be loose. Electricity is lost due to bad connections. Therefore, in addition to the wires becoming heated and melting, you might also experience difficulties jumping the battery. Jumper cables too thin. To move power from the functioning charging system to the malfunctioning one, a jumper cable is required. This transfer results in the production of electricity, so you need to be cautious about the kind of jumper cables you buy. There are several gauges available for jumper cables, which denote their thickness or thinness. You run the risk of melting the cables if you decide to cut costs by purchasing something that is too thin for the power being transferred. The plastic will melt as a result of the cables overheating. Making sure you only use cables that are rated for your specific vehicle or higher is the only way to avoid this. Damaged cables. Jumper cables have a sturdy construction. They have a demanding job to do, after all. Even so, after years of use, especially if improperly stored, they will deteriorate and fail. Any spill could cause the clamps to corrode or break. Too much brittleness can also cause the plastic insulators to break. In any case, any harm to the jumper cables may result in malfunctions like smoking or melting. Crank too long. Recall how we discussed the jumper cables being the conduit for all that electricity. An excessive amount of electricity may be generated if you attempt to crank the engine for an extended period of time, possibly beyond the capacity of the cables. For this reason, if you continue to crank the engine when you shouldn't, you run the risk of melting cables. Using inexpensive jumper cables increases the likelihood of this issue because heavy-duty models are more insulated and equipped to handle power. How to fix? Determining the cause of a smoking or melting jumper cable is the first step towards fixing it. Once the error's location is known, you can select one of these repair techniques to address the issue. Connect cables correctly. Making the correct connections between the cables and each car is the only way to jump a car safely. This is the method that most technicians suggest using. Attach a red jumper cable to the positive terminal of the dead battery. A plus sign can be used to indicate these. Now connect the positive terminal of the good battery to the second red jumper cable. Then attach a black jumper cable to the negative terminal of the dead battery. A minus sign can be used to indicate this. Connect the negative terminal of the good battery to the second black jumper cable. In addition to the cables melting, if you don't follow this order, there's a chance of an explosion. For this reason, you should always adhere to the instructions and make sure the cable ends are never in contact with one another. Check connection. Once you are certain that the connections are positioned accurately, it is time to examine the posts on each vehicle. Examine the terminals to make sure corrosion is absent. On both sides, you want a nice, snug fit. If corrosion is seen, try to reattach the cables after giving it a gentle wipe down. When you're done jumping the battery, you should also make sure the terminals are tight. Use thicker jumper cables. All jumper cables appear to be the same to the untrained eye. On the other hand, jumper cables come in a range of sizes, and the material used in less expensive cables is significantly thinner. We advise switching to a better set of cables to avoid melting the existing ones. The upgrade won't set you back much extra, and you'll save a ton of trouble. The well-insulated cables will also allow you to jump larger cars. Let them cool down. Take a break if you are having problems getting a car to jump. Avoid repeatedly starting the engine in an attempt to get it to turn over. Rather, you should try it for a minute and then give up. Allow the cables to settle in place and cool down before attempting again if it doesn't work at first. Hope the information was helpful for you. If so, please press the like button and subscribe to the channel.